Tell me, what will happen if I take a pendulum, take it on a particular side and leave it to oscillate? So the pendulum would oscillate and gradually, slowly and slowly and slowly would at a point in time come to a stop. Now what made the pendulum stop? Similarly, let's say I have a big table and from one end of the table I try and push a book. Now what will happen? The book obviously will travel some distance and then come to a stop. Now what made the book stop? Now we know that a body cannot change a state of motion or rest unless and until there is a force applied. So now in these cases, when the pendulum was moving or the book was pushed and it was moving, what made them stop? Obviously there was an external force which made them stop. And this force is the force of friction. Now one characteristic of the force of friction is that it always acts opposite to the direction of motion. So if the pendulum is moving this side, friction in the form of air would try and make it move on the other side. Therefore, try and make it stop. Similarly, if book is moving like this, the force of friction will act in the opposite direction so as to slow down the book. And gradually the force of friction will make the pendulum or the book come to a complete halt. So what do we have? The force of friction always acting opposite to the direction of motion. So now what happens when we are walking? Again we are using friction, because what happens when we are taking a step, we are pushing the floor or the surface backwards, and that in turn propels us forward. So we have the force of friction again acting opposite and helping us walk in that sense. So you can imagine if there's a surface which is extremely plain and extremely polished, isn't it kind of difficult to walk? That is because we are not really able to exert the pressure and there is no reverse friction. Similarly, when a car is traveling, when we apply brakes, now the friction between the brake pad and the car wheel acts in the direction opposite to the direction of the car and therefore make the car stop. So we have the force of friction which essentially acts opposite to the direction of motion and gradually gets the body to stop. So we have braking of cars as one example, walking as one example wherein friction comes into play, and in a lot of cases it helps a lot of other functions take place on a day-to-day basis.